Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about buying leads, specifically when you're starting out a new business. It's a good way to kind of kickstart it and to instantly start getting leads. It might not be a good long-term strategy. Bryce, do you recommend doing this long-term? Is this a short-term thing? Tell us a little bit about the overview of buying leads for a business when you're starting.
Yeah. So obviously, people selling leads get a pretty bad rap in the marketing world. A lot of times there's a lot of scammers, and Angie's List has a lot of lawsuits against them. So people don't really like talking about them, but I think they do have their place in the marketing world. It's a really good great way for a new company, especially if they don't have a ton of overhead and they're able to, not charge super high prices because they're just starting out. Then it's a great way to generate leads in the short term. Obviously, when you buy a lead, you can't expect the lead to be a super buyer ready. The lead is usually sent to 3 or 4 other companies, sometimes 5 in the case of Home Advisor. So obviously you have to fight against those people, and the lead is Googling a general service. They're Googling your roof repair or garage door repair. They're not Googling and finding your company specifically. And so when you have a warm lead from your website, they convert a lot better because they've already read your reviews. They've already read about your company. And so, they already like you and they know you and trust you. And so they'll convert better than a paid lead. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're, a lead from your website is a lot higher quality than a lead from Home Advisor or some other lead aggregator. But that being said, buying leads, in my opinion, works really, really well for new companies who are just starting out because usually those new companies aren't super busy. So the owner operator is able to answer the phone every single time and not miss calls. The first person who responds to the lead usually gets the lead.
Okay.
It's all about response speed.
Okay.
And so if Angie List sends out a lead to 5 people, whoever calls them back first and is an okay price will end up getting the job. And so usually the owner operator is able to respond really quickly, and they usually have a pretty fair price because they're an owner operator. They don't need to charge a ton of overhead for all their offices and such. And so it usually works really well. I've also tested, I work with a lot of different home service companies. And so I'm always, interested in what works for them.
Yeah.
And I've kind of collected a lot of data on which lead aggregator, Thumbtack, Home Advisor, Angie's List, 99leads.com. I have a list of 20 different lead sellers and gotten information about them. But that being said, some of them are better than others in general, but every area is different. And so,
interesting. Like by niche, it depends which one.
And location. So for example, a roofer in California, he's in a small town and there's only one other person on Angie's List. And so he's getting all of the leads with this one other guy, and he only has to fight one person. And the cost per lead for him is pretty low. But a roofer here in Arizona, they have to pay $100 and fight 30 other guys,
right.
And so I encourage people to try it, just try all the lead aggregators in your area. You can download the link of all the different places on this podcast. I'll add a link to it. But try them out and find out, what the cost per lead is in your area for your niche, and how many other, if you're fighting a bunch of other people and the lead quality is really low, then just stop. It's not a huge investment. That's the nice thing with most of these lead aggregators is that you don't need to sign a contract. Some of them the salesperson will try to push you to sign a contract, but you don't need to. All of them, they're all month to month. You can pay, usually they'll make you prepay for 5 to 10 leads at a time. And then once the 5 or 10 leads are up, you have to pay again. And so that's what I recommend doing is try out some of these different lead aggregators and then see if you're able to sell them and what your ROI is. Probably try to calculate it, off of a little bit larger sample size than just 5. Try out like 30 or, as much as you can afford. And then calculate what your ROI was, what your close rate was, and then figure out if it's worth it to keep doing. Because a lot of times that will be a lot faster than trying to invest in other marketing like, a website, you might have to pay $5,000 and it takes a while to ROI versus, or SEO, it takes, 3 months sometimes to ROI. But these lead aggregators you can get in just a week. I also have my own contacts that sell leads to Home Advisor. Like I used to sell leads to Home Advisor. So I have a lot of other lead generator friends. And so you can cut out the middleman. If you know someone like me, I could refer you to these other guys who are selling leads and you could buy it directly from them and not have to fight.
Because they've already spent time and money to get like websites essentially SEO'd up that are collecting leads if someone's interested in roofing or something else.
So one of my friends, Holly, she was really famous for doing this. She had her Google News PBN. And what she would do is Google News indexes and ranks immediately. So she would just make a random page for this random town. So like Tucson carpet cleaning, and it would rank instantly because there's hardly any carpet cleaners in Tucson, or maybe not Tucson, Sierra Vista, like some smaller town than that. And then it would rank instantly. And then she would be able to just put a call forwarding number, and she would it's called a sneaky redirect. It's kind of really black hat stuff, but she would use a sneaky redirect. So she would find a renter, or she would just sell it to HomeAdvisor and use a sneaky redirect to have her page that's ranking redirect to whatever the lead generation landing page is. So it would rank number one instantly, and then she would redirect it to whatever the person that's buying the leads from. And so people like that, I have a lot of friends. Not Holly, I don't think she actually does that anymore. She's in podcasting now.
Okay,
but that was her main revenue for like 2 years now.
Dang,
and so
crazy.
she's making a ton of money just selling thousands of leads to HomeAdvisor, which would then resell it to 5 people. You know, HomeAdvisor wouldn't actually pay us that much. I used to sell to HomeAdvisor a little bit, and they would only pay me like $20 a lead. It really sucked. I hated selling to HomeAdvisor. and so, you know, I'd much rather sell directly to the consumer, and then I could charge a little bit more, and they wouldn't have to, you know, get a shared lead.
Right, because they're paying more than that if they're buying it from them anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what is a typical lead cost? I know it's going to completely change by industry, but let's say like, give me just a ballpark so I can imagine like roofing. Let's say I buy 5 roofing leads.
It depends on how the leads are generated. Some lead generators use Google ads and they'll use Google display ads to generate leads. Those usually cost a lot. There's also lead generators who do cold calling. I have a friend in Washington. He has a cold calling lead generation. Well, they'll call people, ask them if they have storm damage, and then set an appointment for them. Those cost like $400 because it's an appointment that's set. Okay. You know, and it also depends on the type of lead. If it's a storm damage restoration lead, that's worth more because the insurance will pay for the roof. If it's a roof repair lead, then you can't charge that much because the roof repair might only cost $400.
Right.
You know, so you can't charge $400 for that. Also, commercial roofing, in my opinion, those are the most expensive and highest, most lucrative because a commercial roof could be, you know, $100,000 job or more. And so those usually cost between $500 and $800. Okay. Actually, the most expensive lead I've seen has been water damage restoration.
Really?
And foundation repair. Yeah. Those ones are the $500 to $800 range.
I mean, foundation repair. Yeah, that's like...
I mean, those are big jobs. And those are usually insurance paid. And so the insurance, you know, has money.
Exactly.
And so they don't have to worry about financing and such.
That's wild.
But and the other really good method is local magazines. Those also sometimes have pay per lead deal. My favorite one is Best Pick Reports and 5-star rated. Those ones are really, really good.
Is that like a physical paper?
Those are physical magazines. And so what they do, it's really smart strategy. They have these magazines where they'll, it's kind of like Google Guaranteed. Well, they'll do a background check on each of the companies, and then they'll check the reviews. They'll call their customers to make sure it's a good service. And then once they approve you, then they list you as the best contractor in the area. They only list, I think, 2 or 3 per industry in their magazine. And then they'll send it to the most expensive houses in their market. So like they only get sent to the really rich neighborhoods, and they'll send, you know, maybe 100,000 out in each market, and then they charge the contractor a yearly fee in addition to a cost per lead. And so like I have a client in Houston who's a garage door person. He's paying $1,000 a year, and he pays $50 per call. But those calls are really, really good because the people who call him already know that he's a vetted contractor and he's a quality guy.
No way.
And they know that, you know, he also knows that these guys are bloated. And so he's able to sell them premium products.
But do people keep this like magazine?
And so they send the magazine out twice a year. And after each time it's sent out, he gets an influx of 50 to 100 leads. Which is really good.
Yeah.
For him. But it doesn't work as good in every market. I have another client who's not getting as many leads with the same service. Just depends on
your market. You kind of got to try them all, and then
so that's why I recommend people, you know, in every industry, it's different. You know, what works for one company won't work for another company. So I recommend learning about these things. Like you can learn from me and my Facebook group, try them out and see what works in your industry. You might lose a little bit of money sometimes, you know, but that's how marketing goes. You have to figure out what gets the best ROI for you.
I love it. I mean, this is an area that like personally I've never even heard of. Well, hardly, especially with a lot of these strategies. So I think this is phenomenal. This is useful for a ton of people. If you enjoyed the episode today on buying leads and how to kind of kickstart your business, make sure to review the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Make sure to go check out everything that Magnetic Marketing is doing. We'll leave links in the show notes for all of that. And I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks.